All right, so the last video in this series is going to cover something that's, I think, even more challenging, and that is we want to be able to define the vase's height and have the curve stay the same as we scale the height, say up or down. And this was the reason this is so challenging. I'm going to hop in the sketch. Is right now we're at a fixed height, right? Defined by these three dimensions. And if we change any one of these to change the overall height, let's make this 120. Well, that point shoots up while the other two remain fixed and our curve is changed. So that's not going to work. One thing that we do know is we want to be able to, because we want to change the height, we want to be able to define this segment here, and which is the height of the vase. And right now we can't do that because we are fully defined. It would over define the sketch. So if I click on this, it says you're over constraining it. So I'm going to click cancel here. I don't want that driven dimension. So what we need to do is we need to delete one of these three dimensions here that, and that'll allow this spline to kind of freely flex in the Z direction to accommodate whatever height we've defined on this segment. So I'll go ahead and delete this, which just so happens to also be our height. Great. And that's awesome. It's not enough though, because as you can probably guess, excuse me, if I increase this, we're going to see the same exact result. We're going to see that the top line adjusts and the top line is connected to the top of our spline. So that's great. That point goes up, but we still have the other points of our spline fixed at 55 and 30. So we did not properly scale the curve. So let's go back. And one thing I'm going to do right now, just for the sake of simplifying this example, is I'm going to make this an even 100, and I'm going to go ahead and make all of our magnitudes, I'm going to round them to the nearest integer values. So 14. We could keep it as is, and that would add another couple of steps and even some complexity to this. And that's not something I want to dive into right now. It's not the point that I'm trying to make. So this now is going to be the curve that we intend to keep. So what we need to do is we need to define these points location, right, as a proportion of our overall height so that they scale up with the height change. So for example, we want our 30 here to increase by 2 times if we increase the height by 2 times. Say this goes to 200, we want this to become 60. So because we've rounded all of our values, and these actually, the magnitudes are going to stay the same of the handles. But what we're going to do to all of both our vertical and horizontal components is make them a percentage of the overall height, which is easy with it being 100. So we can double click here, 30 out of 100, so 30%. So 0.3 times 100 is what this distance currently is, right? And we should see that this point doesn't move at all because we want to, we're simply defining its location in different terms now, but it's not changing yet. Likewise, 55 out of 100 or 55%. This height here is 55% of the overall height. So I'm going to click here, 0.55 times, and I'm clicking on this height here, which is D25. Now it can be represented in a number of different ways. We have 0.55 times D25. We could also say D25 times 55 over 100, right? That's valid. We could also say 5.5 divided by 100. All of those are acceptable. Oh, I didn't change that. I think I mistyped that in. Let's try that again. So 100 times and 55 divided by 100. I think I did 5.5 divided by 100. I meant to do 5.5 divided by 10. Yeah, so that stays the same. And you'll see we don't actually have a height component here anymore because this is already defined by our overall height here. Now we want to do the same to our horizontal components as well, because if we don't, what you'll notice is, and we can go ahead and type this in now, let's say we scale this up by 200, you're going to see the vase get, or the curve, the outer curve get long and narrow. And well, you can see that it's getting longer and narrower because the horizontal component to our curve is staying fixed while the vertical components are being expanded. So if I really exaggerate it and go to like 500, yeah, now our curve is looking really, really wonky because we haven't changed the horizontal components or scaled the horizontal components properly. So I've gotten us back to our original scale, and we want to also make our horizontal components a function of our overall height. This one got changed back on accident, so 0.55 times 100. And we're gonna do the same thing, 0.15 times this, 0.22 times this, 0.1 times that. Okay, so now the curve is all should scale properly with the overall height dimension. Also note that included in these horizontal components is our base component as well. So the base will also scale with our height. So what I'm going to do is go back to 500, which 500 millimeters in height, which, as you remember from a few seconds ago, completely distorted our curve, made something that we didn't want. And if I click enter and zoom out, now we have the exact same vase shape, but at 5 times the size. We'd have to come in and also, make our sketch look nicer. But the power in this is I can come into my sketch now and literally change one dimension and everything about it scales along with it, as opposed to having to go in and manually change each and every one of these. This could be applied to a lot of different things, but let's say you wanted to 3D print a 1/10 scale size of the house that you're going to build, or maybe not 1/10, but some small fraction to see how it'll look aesthetically and whatnot. And then, okay, now we need to scale that up for drafting and building plans and blueprints. Well, you're able to do that. And you're able to do that really easily by use of parametrics and making many or the majority of your dimensions a function of a few. And so that is what we've done here. So just a final note, okay, we want to come in here, we want to make this 2.5 times bigger. It's scaled properly. I click finish sketch, and now we have a vase that is 2.5 times the size. And of course, you'll see that the wall thickness has remained 2 millimeters. So maybe that's too thin. Maybe we have to go in and make the wall thickness a function also of height, so that it scales. But we'll save that for another day. Cool. That's that.